Hi everybody and welcome back to the Willie St. Willie channel. Now today we're going to be discussing something that has to be brought up at least once in every spooky commentary infotainment channel. Today we'll be discussing analog horror. More specifically, the vastly underrated subgenre in analog horror known as the Jurassic Park VHS tapes. Now, if you're not familiar with what analog horror is, it's essentially a subgenre in the horror community that is an offshoot from the found footage filming technique, and its visual style invokes a strange sense of nostalgia and eeriness due to its use of old analog recordings like VHS or old TV broadcasts, and it's typically from the 1980s and 90s. Now, analog horror has gotten very popular in the past few years here on YouTube, and there's many series that you might be familiar with, like the Mandela Catalog or Gemini Home Entertainment, but this sort of subgenre goes way back. Like, it starts even back in the old school creepypasta days, to be honest. I think the reason a lot of people in my age group like this genre, like, you know, in the old Gen Z and millennial crowd, is because it kind of invokes a sense of strange nostalgia and familiarity within us. Like, okay, look, I wasn't a 90s baby, I grew up in the 2000s, but still, I had VHS for way longer than I probably should have, so I still vividly remember all of the grainy and film distortions that came with all of the home movies and blockbuster rental movies, like Star Wars or Nightmare on Elm Street, so it's still very familiar and hits home for me. And I think this is also going to be applied to the popularity of liminal spaces in the back rooms, because there's this faint familiarity within us and a sense of nostalgic melancholy that overcomes us whenever we see these images or videos of it. However, like any popular series, the analog horror genre is starting to get a little bit milked. But there are still plenty of unique hidden gems that are just waiting to be unearthed. Such is the case for today. Now, most of the Jurassic Park VHS tapes don't follow one overarching plot or narrative. They mostly just take cues from the books and movies as a way to establish their setting for whatever short-term story they're trying to tell. And typically this is done through found footage of victims or survivors, or through like in-gen security camera footage. And yes, speaking of the books, in case you didn't know, Jurassic Park was originally a series of 2 novels written by Michael Crichton. And if you're a fan of the movies and never read the books, well, they're not what you'd expect, but I'll talk about them more later in the video. Now, I'm going to be covering a few of the VHS videos, as I think you should check out a lot of these videos yourself and support the creators. And there's also several of them, like there's a lot, and I really think you should just dive down that rabbit hole yourself, and I think you might have a good time. Now, the first one we'll be discussing is actually the newest one in terms of release in this little list I made, and that would be the San Diego incident by channel Chronotican. This video is inspired by the T-Rex rampage through San Diego in the second Jurassic Park movie, The Lost World. And this sort of found footage POV mixed with this PlayStation 1 graphics perfectly encapsulates the sheer dread you would experience encountering a T-Rex or any sort of large predatory creature. You wouldn't even be able to feel safe inside of your own home. And as much as you would try to hide, you would be completely helpless and vulnerable to the whims of this apex predator. Our next video is titled InGen Velociraptor Escape Tape VHS from the channel Rostico. The video is supposedly from the InGen Corporation files from 1987, detailing how a Velociraptor managed to escape confinement and is on a rampage killing Jurassic Park employees, before a picture of what I can only assume to be John Hammond, the owner of InGen and the founder of Jurassic Park, flashes on the screen. After a quick T-Rex jump scare, we cut to a company PSA describing how velociraptors are capable of running up to 40 miles per hour and that running from them will do us no good, before the music stops and our automated voice narrator tells us,
"They are faster than you, Robert. So start running."
Before the video ends, we cut to the perspective of an unknown person attempting to escape from a velociraptor and eventually ends up in the kitchen, where they are spotted and eaten alive. Now, the name Robert in the video refers to the character of Robert Muldoon, who was the game warden of Jurassic Park in both the books and movies. Now, in the movie, as we all know, he was killed by a velociraptor in an ambush, and that's where we get the famous line that everybody loves where he goes, "Clever girl." Now, the next video, titled Dennis Nedry, Jurassic Park VHS Tape Horror from the channel The Engine Files, is probably my favorite one out of the bunch today just because it references my favorite scene in the first book, the death of Dennis Nedry. And for those of you who don't remember, Dennis Nedry was the programmer guy who basically was the entire reason the events of the first book happened, where he temporarily shut down the power and all the dinosaurs were escaping from their confinement. And his death is, well, very different in the book and movie, I'll put it that way, but again, I'll explain that a little bit later. The video opens up with an automated voice narrator describing the Dilophosaurus and its acid spit before flashing images and playing the audio of Dennis Nedry's death from the movie. The tape continues on from the perspective of a search team who was looking for Dennis since he had been missing for 5 years. Eventually, the team discovers Dennis's Jeep, but then an abrupt warning from Engine tells us to discard the tape immediately before showing us a censored image of the remains of Dennis Nedry.
Sir, we found Dennis and then something attacked us. It attacked all of our men. We need backup him. Well, what the hell is that?
Discard this tape, discard this tape, discard.
Now, the reason Dennis Nedry's death is my favorite scene in the first book is because the tension and the suspense it builds in leading up to his death is honestly had me on the edge of my seat as I was listening to the audiobook version of it. And in the movie, Dennis's death is kind of sort of played for laughs. Like, it's still kind of creepy, but it's like, it's mostly played for like a laugh and it doesn't really show that much of anything. But in the book, it describes his entire death in brutal detail, and it's very gory. And yeah, trigger warning, by the way, if anyone wants to go actually read the book. The book is yeah, it's creepy. Like I said, be patient. I'll talk more about it later. Now, the more of these Jurassic Park VHS tapes I watch, the more I start to notice a pattern. And that is, the dinosaurs themselves aren't really treated like natural predatory animals just acting through instinct like a bear or a wolf would, but they're treated as if there's something different, like there's something a lot darker, and you'll start to understand why as I kind of elaborate further. Now, the next video is another one from the Engine Files, and it's titled Camera Testing Jurassic Park VHS Tape Horror. The video starts with our narrator telling us that they installed brand new cameras in the Metriacanthosaurus enclosure because she destroyed the previous ones, and they had to try and better hide these new ones because she, quote, doesn't like to be watched. Now, in the movies, this topic is kind of touched upon. It's not like it doesn't exist at all, but the reason I like these VHS horror tapes is because it really hits home this point. And that is, these dinosaurs that have been created through genetic engineering by Engine, they're not normal dinosaurs. They're not only smarter than their prehistoric counterparts, but they're also a lot more sadistic. See, the Engine Corporation knows this. They know that the creatures they made, they might have the DNA and the appearance of dinosaurs, but they're not dinosaurs. They're monsters. They're monsters who cause fear and pain in every other living creature that they interact with, and they enjoy it. That's why all these Engine files and videos are classified or not to be viewed by the public, because they know that if the truth came out about these dinosaurs that they had created, then they wouldn't be very profitable or marketable to the general public. They would lose all of the money they had put into for genetic research, and they would even lose all of the future prospects of tourism through their Jurassic Park. It doesn't matter how many employees or guests at the park die, as long as the company stays profitable and the truth remains hidden, they will continue to cover up the deaths and tragedies forever. Now, the dinosaurs that are created showcase their intellect and sadism and how they behave, but more specifically in how they hunt and kill their prey. In the video titled Engine Victims 197B-JP-92 Analog Horror by CD Jurassic, we see 4 recent victims of a Dilophosaurus breakout. Now, the incident reports of these victims just continue to get more and more gruesome the further along we get in the report, until we get to the fourth and final victim of the incident, whose injuries are so severe the entire report has to be censored. We then get an urgent message in the report with an automated voice telling us to remember, where there are dinosaurs, there is danger. They will hunt you, they will hurt you, and they will kill you. Now, after showcasing a few of my favorite videos from these Jurassic Park VHS tapes, I highly recommend you go check them all out and support the creators, as I know a lot of time and effort is probably put into all of these. So yeah, go check them out for yourself. Now, the reason I think I like so much of these Jurassic Park VHS analog horror tapes is because the tone of them matches the original book a lot closer than the original movies did. Now, while the original movie is a classic, I love it, it's definitely more of an adventure film with thriller elements than just a straight up horror movie. While the original Jurassic Park book fell much more in line with that of sci-fi horror. The novels is so much more brutal and horrifying and had such dark undertones, and even entire character motivations were different. And no other VHS entry I've seen better encapsulates one of the most gruesome scenes in the Jurassic Park book, better than the entry I'm about to show you. The most gruesome scene in the entire book, in my opinion, would be that of the compies. And if you read the book, then you know which scene I'm talking about. Now, fair warning for anyone watching, the events I'm going to be discussing are very disturbing, so I'm just putting that out there. In the video titled Engine Tape Concerns with the Park by channel Engine Truth, it describes how the park has received several complaints and that this video was made as a way to address them. The first problem is addressing that of the brachiosaur, more specifically its food requirements. With it being so large and having such a high foliage diet, the park receives shipments of brachiosaur food every 2 weeks. However, this causes an unforeseen problem, as a specific breed of dinosaurs at Jurassic Park are able to sneak on board the ships and get off the island undetected, which we later find out to be the small scavenger dinosaurs known as the compies, who are used on the island to help dispose of waste. Over time, a pack of compies find their way to nearby towns, and since average people don't know anything about Jurassic Park or the containment breaches they have, who would have been able to guess that on one stormy night, through a half-open window, a group of creatures from another time would find their way into a newborn baby's room?
Thanks, little guys. You really are a big help.
I apologize to anyone out there who might have been disturbed by what they just listened to. But I mean, the word horror is in the title of the video, so I don't know what you expected. But to wrap things up, guys, I hope you all appreciate the horror potential that a lot of these analog videos have. Because, I mean, analog horror can get a little stale, especially when they try to copy the local 58 vibes and try to do the same thing over and over again. But when people are willing to try something new and different, I really appreciate it. Even though it's not always the best, I appreciate the effort, you know, A for effort, you know. Actually, now that I think about it, I think this is probably the creepiest video I made. Oh wait, no, I mean, I did make a short Christmas video discussing just straight up real life murder, so maybe not. But thank you guys as always for tuning in. I just love seeing your bright, bouncing, beautiful faces every time I make a new video. And for those of you asking, how do I see you through a screen? Don't worry about it. And guys, I can't believe it. I've made it through an entire video without plugging my Patreon. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, just go and check that out, please, and thank you for your willing to toss a few doll hairs my way, you know. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. And just in case I don't see you, stay safe and have a good one. Goodbye.